All right, guys, so Total War Pharaoh is getting a Dynasty version of the game. This is a free update to current owners. It releases on the 25th of July, and it's a standalone version, actually. So when you get access, it's going to have its own line in the Steam library for you to download and install. We know that there's going to be a map expansion, lots of new cultures, factions, and units, and changes to the battle side of things as well. And yesterday, we had the final blog post in the lead up to the release, which goes into the various changes that are happening to the campaign mechanics. So what we're going to do today, guys, is go through this blog post bit by bit. This is my first time reading it, so I want to have a bit of an open discussion, a bit of an honest kind of evaluation of how they're changing things, how this might impact gameplay, and lead up basically to my impressions of how the Dynasty Edition is shaping up to be. So starting from the top here, we've got a bit of an introduction. You know, this is what this blog is going to go through, the heart of the gameplay experience, the campaign, where you'll orchestrate magnificent war campaigns, construct your economy from scratch. Interesting use of words there, and scheme against your eternal enemies in the court. Just a reminder, the previous dev update went into battles, and there's a lot that I have kind of thought and opinion-wise about it, but to be completely honest, the battle side of this update is really something I need to get my hands on and play before I have a concrete opinion to share with you guys. I'm doing a review video that will be coming out hopefully on the day of release if CA give me access to the update. Let's see. I don't know if they've really engaged historical content creators about this, but yeah, we'll see. If I get access, I'll be doing a review, and that's definitely going into what has been changed up in the battle side of things. But today we're going to focus on this blog post, and specifically with the campaign, the various updates that are coming with these factions, religions, customs, traditions, etc. So starting with deities here, we've got the new cultures in the Aegean that are getting 5 new gods: Zeus, Poseidon, Apollo, Ares, and Aphrodite, and they all come with a new feature, a new mechanic, the hecatomb, which lets players advance their chosen deity by offering food, enhancing their divine blessings. That's all totally fine. I'm personally not a massive fan of the deities and the divinity system that they have in these games. It's an afterthought for me. I just gloss over it. I forget about it. 3-4 turns later, I remember I need to click a button to get a buff. It doesn't really make or break a campaign. So these need to happen basically to flesh out the cultures and factions that are being added, to give them a level of immersion and engagement, another layer of engagement for the player. But it's nothing that's really all that enabling for risk and reward and decision making that matters, right? On the Mesopotamian side, we've got Ashur, Ishtar, Inshushinak, Marduk, and Ninurta. A lovely assortment of artwork here for each of these gods, which I love. And their feature is a building, a dwelling, which when you unlock, you build in minor and major settlements, and that provides again stat buffs here and there, and favor that leads to more stat buffs for your armies, your cities, and etc. Again, as I said, all well and fine. If you enjoy that, good for you. Personally, it's kind of a surface level mechanic for me, and I don't really enjoy it that much. So next we have legitimacy. The Aegeans get a distinct royal tradition characterized by a new legitimacy factor known as heroes. So basically what this means is you get high-ranking generals recruitable in that pool, and they cost a lot more resources, of course. But if you get them, they grant legitimacy per turn, which I guess is quite cool. The king, referred to as 1X, is adorned with regalia in form of shields, which I like. The royal court features 2 commanders or hecatas, one of which providing Anatolian units and the other Greek units, which is quite cool actually. It just diversifies the different roles of positions of the court. You get access to Greek units here, but that's at the expense of Anatolian units over there. That's quite a nice risk-reward factor to the royal court over here in the Aegean. There's new royal powers, remote colonization, which allows the Wanax to take control of abandoned settlements from afar, and war games, a feature that enables the rapid leveling up of units with a simple click of a button. I don't like that. I think that, simple click of a button is something that we want to avoid in Total War games. There's no depth to it. Okay, you've sacrificed a lot to become 1X of the Aegean. You're going to do that anyway. The fact that you get there and you can now click a button to take control of a settlement and level up a unit is just way too much for me. It's up here, and there needs to be powers that are a bit lower down on the scale scale of impact on your campaign and your faction and your armies. I don't like that at all. For Mesopotamia, we're introducing a new legitimacy factor called religion. Reaching higher favor thresholds for certain gods grants legitimacy points. Okay, fair enough. So it ties in with that deities system, getting the dwelling buildings in various places, increasing the favor with the gods that you're dedicated to, gets you legitimacy points, which is quite cool. The king titled the King of the Universe is adorned with various regalia. The court is uniquely composed of multiple kings. For example, the King of Babylon is a position, and each king must control their designated city and has access to their units through special recruitment. That is quite cool as well, actually. I really like the way historically it was like that in this region as well, but just having this mechanic of, right, I'm the King of Babylon, I have this city, I need to have the legitimacy to then claim that in the regional court as well. That's quite cool. Additionally, we're introducing two new royal powers: Agitate, which allows the king to provoke rebellion in adjacent territories, and Bribe, which enables the prevention of enemy attacks through financial incentives. That's what I'm talking about. It's not as big as suddenly you gain a settlement, an entire territory. Like, that's not how it should work. You engage with territories and other factions and armies. That's how these powers should work, in my opinion. So that's really cool. Nicely done on the Mesopotamian side of things. Then we've got Ancient Legacies. So as you might be aware, the Ancient Legacy mechanic offers a variety of iconic historical leaders for you to emulate and playstyles to explore. With this update, we're introducing new legacies for Aegean and Mesopotamian factions. The first Aegean Ancient Legacy is a mechanic named after Atreus, who is believed to be slightly mythological father of Agamemnon and Menelaus. It essentially rewards the player for playing aggressively and allows them to crush weaker factions without going through the motions of conquering each and every settlement through the intricacies of diplomacy. The flow is as follows: declare war, then complete the objectives against the enemy factions, such as defeat enemy faction leader, conquer capital, raid resources, sack a target region, defeat a specific hero, etc. This allows you to accumulate dominance, which you can spend on diplomacy, court actions, royal powers, and some limited time legitimacy. Okay, interesting. That's an interesting legacy there. It's kind of giving you an incentive to do these smaller minor mission objectives that give you again another kind of resource that you can use in other mechanics as well. It's tying these all in, which is quite cool. It gives you an incentive to do this. There's a risk to it because you're going out of your way to maybe go into this region to attack that general or sack this region, and there's a reward, a greater reward depending on the mission type and where you're going and how difficult it is, and you can use the reward from that into other mechanics. I quite like that. That's quite a cool ancient legacy. The second Aegean ancient legacy mechanic is named after Perseus, the mythical founder of Mycenae, who created an empire through network alliances. In a nutshell, with this legacy, the player can use global recruitment to hire faction units from allied rosters. The more regions allies control, the more they can utilize global recruitment. This mechanic allows the player to create the most diverse roster. Right, so this is a legacy. This was a mechanic that was definitely in Total War Troy. It was one of the specific factions that had this mechanic where the more allies you had, the more unit rosters you had access to. So this is just moving over. It's okay. I mean, it's all right. It's not bad. I quite enjoy having access to more unit rosters. So yeah, that's fine. I like that. Moving on to the Mesopotamian ancient legacies, we have Sargon of Akkad, the great ruler of the entire empire of Mesopotamia. Adopting the legacy of Sargon allows you to select up to 2 regular ambitions to unlock unique abilities in one of the following categories: builder, conqueror, diplomat, raider, overseer, strategist, and warrior. Additionally, you can choose 1 grand ambition, a more challenging objective that provides greater rewards such as victory points. Okay, that looks quite cool as well. Let's have a closer look here. So you get ambitions, minor ambitions, basically mission objectives to do, and then there are greater objectives that give you greater ambitions that give you more rewards. That's cool. I mean, it just looks like the same kind of ambition system that we normally have. I guess it just maybe the ambitions are more varied. and you get greater ambitions. Those should be interesting as well, more risky, and hopefully more rewarding as well. But that kind of like the process of going through the ambitions to get those rewards will be quite risky and rewardy. That's all really, that's the stuff that I like to see, to be honest. So that's cool. Hammurabi is the second ancient legacy mechanic for Mesopotamia, quite fitting. Known as the king of the old Babylonian Empire and famous for creating a code of laws, Hammurabi's ancient legacy in the update allows players to create their own laws, a variation of the royal decrees. Each law contains a number of passive effects and requires a certain number of turns to be researched. Once the law is researched, its effects are permanently applied to the player's campaign. How interesting. This is quite cool as well. I mean, look at that. You've got negative effects from a mechanic. It's like they're actually listening to us. I like it. And this is quite engaging as well in terms of historically, having the option to create your own laws that last throughout the entirety of the campaign. That's quite cool. I really like that. That excites me quite a bit. From an ancient legacy perspective, I really like Atreus for the Aegean side, and I definitely like the Hammurabi side for the Mesopotamian more as well. They all look kind of good, but I would say those are my favorites. Finally, guys, we have the Dynasty system, the section of this blog I've been really looking forward to. This introduces the family tree, mortality, succession, strategic marriages, cross-factional cultural marriages as well, which is quite cool, heroic deaths on the battlefield, assassination, mortality, old age being a part of that as well. All really good stuff. And there's some extras here that I did not expect as well. Hello, turns per year, which is crazy. I don't think any historical Total War game has had that. So that is really nice to see. But starting from mortality, so characters are now mortal, can be killed in battle. They age as well, and they age visibly. So older models of the main characters display wrinkles, gray hair, and other signs of getting older as well. That's a really nice feature to have. You've got turns per year, another system we've implemented to enhance the realism and immersion of the Dynasty system is turns per year. So you can customize this now. You can go from 1, 3, 6, or 12 turns per year, and this flexibility enhances the dynamic nature, yada yada, blurb. But this is really interesting, guys. This hasn't been seen in a historical game before. It's going to be really cool to see how this affects turn time limits, ambitions, building kind of times, movement speeds. I'm very interested to see how the game plays between the different turn times per year. It's going to be very interesting, very different to see that. The pace of events, the aging process of leaders, how inheritance works, all of that is going to be really cool to see. I love that they've added this in. This is something that modders have been doing for years. So, Sophia, seriously, really well done if you're watching this. I full approval, absolutely, to have this in the game. Next, we've got ruling family. So this represents the family tree of factions where players can appoint scion characters to inherit the faction after the current leader dies. Characters can also marry each other, marry randomly generated characters, or choose spouses from other factions in diplomacy. So that's got to be a diplomatic option there. This is incredible. I mean, having a family tree is one thing. I mean, I was thinking something more like Rome 2. You get the family tree, you can have marriages and use characters for various effects on provinces or diplomacy or etc. But this goes a little bit beyond that. This is like, you can actually be adopted into a family and maybe inherit the lands of the leader that dies. You can marry off a character to a different faction to have a line of succession. There's some really interesting gameplay elements here that I did not expect. So this is really, really cool to see. Cannot wait to get my hands on this and checking it out. This goes even more granular with the Dynasty tree. So this is the inner circle of the supreme leader, consisting of adopted leaders and immediate family members. You can go through a peaceful process to becoming pharaoh. You don't have to go through the warring aspect. The gaining legitimacy is still part of it. Of course, you have to have legitimacy after being adopted to be designated an heir. But this is a really interesting, peaceful way of becoming the supreme leader of your culture. How cool. And this is the same for all the other cultures as well. Hittites, Mesopotamian, and Aegean cultures. That's really, really cool to see. Great to see. the dynasty system also tracks the exploits of each supreme ruler in the form of deeds. So presumably, as supreme leaders pass on, you can see the deeds that they did in their time, which is also quite cool. Just kind of visualizes how previous dynasties of the culture look like and what they did in their time. That's really, really nice. Just brings to life a bit more the historical aspect of this game. I love it. I love it. Absolutely brilliant, brilliant system to implement here. This all has an effect on diplomacy, so you can now adopt into a dynasty by engaging with these factions in diplomacy and asking them to be adopted, or indeed trying to get adopted into a dynasty as well. Diplomatic and political marriages, as I said. So yeah, you can marry off characters to other factions, get into lines of succession, enough legitimacy, and you'll inherit those lands once those leaders die. Strategically using these options and finding the best matches for your characters can provide a significant edge in diplomacy while keeping your family populous. So really interesting aspect of marrying these different mechanics being introduced into diplomacy. I love it. And legitimacy support integrates legitimacy into economic and diplomatic systems, making it, I guess, a sort of resource that you can barter in you know, kind of to get resources or land or favors, non-aggressions, you know, all of that jazz. So that's interesting. I thought of legitimacy more as a sign of reputation. The more legitimacy you have, the more people know of you and your fame across the land to support you to becoming pharaoh. That's how I thought about it. It's kind of weird to think about being able to barter that in a trade or a diplomatic panel. But okay, cool. I'm open to seeing what that is all about when I get my hands on the game. And then forced inheritance provides a method for players to extend their family into other factions for strategic or immersive purposes. So you can force characters into other families, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I wonder what the cost to doing that is. I don't know if that's it actually goes into this, which is common among Egyptian and Hittite faction leaders. You can actually, they used to force people into other families. Interesting. Other shared mechanic updates. So lots of other features are being updated in the game. Ambitions, character titles, the Hatshepsut the Merchant, Tutmos the Conqueror, victory objectives, and others. And additionally, we've overhauled the behavior of sea peoples. Invasions are now controlled by the campaign AI, which means they will make more strategic decisions and behave like real factions instead of scripted armies, which is great. That's one of the things I really did not like about the sea peoples. They felt like scripted invasions. This one was always going to go here every time. You could anticipate where they were going to go, and that basically removed the element of this is a surprising, dangerous force I need to defend myself against. So yeah, really cool stuff. Finally, we have also added new campaign customization options, including the ability to select an ancient legacy, choose any royal power, shuffle commands. Cool. Lots more customization options are great. I think the more options, the better. You know, this is something that all Total War games really should have moving forward. So really interesting stuff here. Lots of stuff that I did not expect. The interweaving of mechanics into diplomacy, making diplomacy more interesting. The family tree, the turns per year, mortality being visual, the different ancient legacies that are being introduced. The Atreus legacy, I really like the look of the Hammurabi, the lawmaker. Really interesting, unique legacies here. Great ideas. And then, of course, the changes to, or the additions of deities from Troy and the new ones to Mesopotamia as well. Really good stuff here. I'm quite excited by what I see here. A lot of the issues I had on the campaign side of Pharaoh were to do with mechanics, not really having enough risk reward, not being connected to each other enough to make it worth engaging with, no consequences to the decisions that you're making. But a lot of this later stuff, especially the dynasty tree, succession, mortality, especially being here, turns per year, how the game will change depending on the turns you have. enabled. All of that is really quite interesting. So yeah, overall, I mean, I'm getting quite a good vibe from this update. I've yet to really see how battles are going to look. That's my real worry with the Dynasty Edition. I think the campaign is going to have quite an impact on how people see the game. It's much closer to what a true historical Total War is now than it ever was before, with these mechanics and layers of innovation, the improvements to foundational mechanics as well. There's some really good stuff here from the campaign. As I said, the only thing is how our battle's going to play out, how our improvements there really going to make a difference. That's the only thing I'm going to try and look out for if I get access to the game. So that's it for today, guys. That's the end of the video. As I said, I'll be making a review if I get access. There is a creator list going out there. I don't know how many of them are going to be historical Total War content creators, but we'll see if I'm there. I'm going to be making a review on the day of release, and my plan is to live stream the game, the Dynasty Edition, in the days following release as well, so you can get a good idea of why I did my review and just watch me live playing it to tell you exactly and show you why I had that review. So that's my plan. If that sounds good to you, if you enjoyed this video as well and found it informative, subscribe for more just like this. Give it a like and drop any comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all these changes coming to Total War Pharaoh on July the 25th. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.